video game is safe from an industry that's always chasing the hot new thing. Sure, the Simpsons game is great with its unique upgradable character abilities and its hilarious self-referential cutscenes. But what about when the Xbox 720 comes out or the PlayStation 4? No one will want to play as then.
The Simpsons game is one of those games that has stuck with me ever since I played it when I was younger. Even though I remember very few details of it, in my head, it's still one of the best licensed games ever. But now that I've gone back and replayed it, does it hold up? That's what I'm going to discuss in this video. So when I was first making the script for this video, I started Googling to see what other people thought of the Simpsons game. I don't know what I'm looking at. There's actually another Simpsons game, Hit and Run, has far more critical acclaim, but I've never played it and I only learned about it while I was making this video. So for right now, I still think the Simpsons game is the best Simpsons game, but that could change if and when I get around to play Hit and Run, but I doubt it though. Just a quick note, I replayed this game for this video, but whenever I tried to capture it, I got this device could not be initialized error on my Elgato. Couldn't find a fix for it. I played the PS3 version, but the footage in this video is a mix of the Wii version and the Xbox version. And if you end up enjoying the video, please hit the like button and subscribe. I'm hoping to hit 200 subscribers by the end of the year. The Simpsons game was originally released in 2007. It was made by EA Redwood Shores, the same studio that made the original Dead Space. Redwood Shores would eventually become Visceral Games in 2009, and then trashed by studio killer EA in 2017, where they started to think there was no money to be made from strictly single-player games, which is what Visceral was known for.
Hello, I like money.
Gone way too soon. But while they were still active, they managed to deliver an absolute gem. The Simpsons game is a 3D platformer. A game genre that's unfortunately in serious decline, but you know, at least we can appreciate when these types of games are popular. Between platforming, you have this beat 'em up or brawler style gameplay. This game isn't a revolutionary platformer. It's pretty average in this regard, but where this game truly shines is in its levels and story. The Simpsons game has an original story written by some of the show's best writers. The first episode is called The Land of Chocolate. It starts off with Homer eating too much chocolate, causing him to start dreaming about a chocolate dreamland. This level is actually a reference to a moment in the episode Burns Verkauf in the Kraftwerk. I don't know if you can tell, but I don't know German. In this episode, Mr. Burns sells the power plant to some German execs. They interview Homer to see if he's worth keeping around, but during the interview they mention that they're from the land of chocolate, which causes Homer to start daydreaming. The intro cutscene to this level is a one-for-one recreation of the scene from the show. The game opening with a level fully inspired by a minute-long scene from a random episode in season 3 was enough to sell me on this game. The rest of this level is the game's tutorial. You have to chase this white chocolate rabbit through the town while fighting regular chocolate rabbit, and it ends when Homer realizes that he's dreaming. As I said before, this game has this beat-em-up style combat, each character also having their own special powers. Homer's power is that he can release an explosive burp and turn into a ball and roll over and crush enemies. Unfortunately, you can't really enjoy Homer's ball power because from the moment you start controlling Homer, the game's biggest problem starts to show, and that's the camera. It's really janky and sluggish, especially when you're in tighter spaces or moving fast. I never got used to it and it holds back what would otherwise be a pretty decent action platformer, but the camera's not enough to stop me. The second episode is called Bart Man Begins, which is a parody of Batman Begins. Imagine if Bruce Wayne just walked around calling himself Bruce Man. Anyways, this is where the story of the game really starts. Bart bribes the cashier at Sequel Stop and buys a copy of Grand Theft Scratchy, but Marge shows up.
Bart, what are you doing near a video game store? Buying a video game?
She confiscates it, complaining that Bart shouldn't be playing violent video games. She says she's gonna hide it in Homer's underwear drawer, where she also put his swimsuit magazines and BB gun. Angrily, Bart walks into the store's alley and finds a thick instruction manual that fell out of the sky. The manual is for the Simpsons game, and it reveals that his family are characters in a game with special powers, including Bart and his ability to transform into Bart Man. Homer shows up with a BB gun and a swimsuit magazine he found in his magic drawer. Bart explains that he has powers now, but they just skate over this. Homer then invites Bart to go shoot some bats with him in a cave, and they jump into a manhole. Turns out the cave leads right into the Springfield Museum. After traversing further into it, Bart and Homer find Jimbo, Dolphin, Kenny trying to rob the museum. Bart takes this as the perfect opportunity to try out his new powers. They make their way to the museum and defeat each bully one by one. They trap Dolph under some dinosaur bones, they force Kenny out of the History of Man exhibit and beat him up, and finally platform across the space exhibit to get to the UFO where Jimbo is and then beat him up too. After defeating all three, Principal Skinner is revealed to be the one behind all of this. He hired the bullies to steal some artifacts from the museum to use as visual aids for the science classes, because the district cut their budget so much they couldn't afford to buy any.
I've never heard of such an evil plan.
Chief Wiggum arrives to arrest Principal Skinner. This is the first level where Bart is playable. You can use his slingshot to break boxes, hit targets, and enemies. When transformed into Bart Man, he can climb walls, glide, and zipline. He can also find a power-up that lets him transform into Robobot, which gives him the ability to shoot lasers. This level also introduces the player to switching characters. You can switch between Homer and Bart. You need to use them both to solve puzzles that involve standing on pressure plates, and you can use either in combat. This leads to the second problem with this game. There's really no thought needed when fighting most enemies. In this level, you have security guards that swarm you, and Kenny and Jimbo who shoot you with ray guns. This is the exact archetype for almost every enemy except boss enemies going forward. One that runs up to you and another that shoots you from afar. I think it's a missed opportunity to not have the enemies interact with the family's powers in some way. Maybe like an enemy that blocks projectiles so you can't use Bart's slingshot on it, or an enemy that has armor that can only be broken by Homer rolling into them. Anything to make fighting in this game a bit more interesting. This might be a really unfair comparison since this game was released way later and probably had a bigger budget, but I wish they would have gone for something similar to Guardians of the Galaxy and have ability combos to flesh out combat a bit more. As the game continues, you unlock more powers which are fun to play around with, but they never feel needed or necessary. Sometimes you can actually just let the AI handle the fighting and just focus on the puzzles. On that point, the AI in this game is pretty competent. They follow you closely, help in combat and in some parts of puzzles. It seems small, but I play games where you have to complete every little aspect of a puzzle by yourself, so it's great that you won't always have to move a character to the right spot and they can just do it themselves. Each character also has their own collectibles hidden through the level that only they can pick up. This is an interesting way to encourage switching characters, and often the collectibles are in areas that only that character can get to, so it adds more depth to these levels. Overall, this is a really solid level. It's great that most of the problems with it aren't because of the level itself and are just fundamental problems with the game. The design of the museum is top tier, especially the lost space exhibit section, and you move through the level fast enough that you never get bored of any one part of it. The next level is Around the World in 80 Bites. Moe is convinced Homer to participate in an eating contest around the world hosted by Dow. Homer is not feeling confident that he can win because he entered the competition last year and was the first to fall. But Bart reminds Homer that he has powers now.
What are you worried about? You have video game powers on your side. It's like cheating, but cheating.
Woohoo! Cheating!
They start in China and have to pass through other countries to make it all the way to America. When transformed into a ball, Homer can ball fast to rush forward. He uses this to get from China to Australia. From Australia, he can wobble to Mexico. He uses his ball blast again to break a barricade blocking his way to Germany. After Germany, he enters France. Bart climbs the Eiffel Tower, then glides to a switch that opens the gate to Scotland. Homer destroys Stonehenge to make a path to some giant bagpipes. Ground pounding the bagpipes creates an updrop that Bart uses to glide to a switch that opens a gate to Italy. In Italy, Homer destroys a giant meatball. This causes pasta to fall that can be used as a rope. They climb the Colosseum and cross over to the San Francisco Bridge. Bart climbs one of the support beams and glides from the top of the beam to another switch that opens the gate to the final part of this level. Homer ball blasts into the statue 3 times, destroying it and dropping a giant hamburger. After he eats it, he's declared the winner. This level is fun, but it has a side quest vibe. Story-wise, Homer only gets his power after Bart's episode. Even though you could play as him in Bart's episode, you couldn't use his ball powers, and in the tutorial you could only use it briefly right at the end. So this level is the actual introduction to his powers. After the last episode, I would prefer not to have another Homer and Bart episode, especially when we haven't met the other family members yet, but this isn't a massive deal. The level ends with the losers cleaning up the aftermath of the race.
You maniacs! You blew it up! Ah, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Hey, less references, more mopping.
The next episode is called Lisa the Tree Hugger. This episode starts with Lisa and Bart outside Mr. Burns' logging company Anti-Major, a clever double entendre. Lisa tells Bart that Homer told her that Bart has superpowers now, so she asks him how he got them. Bart reveals the manual and tells her that she also has powers. Lisa decides she's going to use her powers in the name of social justice
Can we skip this level?
and gets Bart to help out by telling him he can beat people up. It then cuts to Burns and Smithers. Burns explains how he wants to cut down all the forests in Springfield to make a single personal luxury toothpick. This points out the natural disasters it will cause, but because he's Burns' #1 simp, he doesn't bite him on this. So Lisa and Bart set out to shut down Burns' logging company. This is Lisa's introductory episode. Lisa's powers are that she can play her saxophone to stun enemies around her, and if she finds these statues, she can meditate on them to use her hand of Buddha, which is a nice reference to the fact that Lisa became Buddhist, and as far as I know, still is. She became a Buddhist in the season 13 episode called She of Little Faith. It's one of those episodes that has a strong message about finding your own faith, but still manages to balance it out with some comedy.
I still believe in God. I just think there's another path to him or her.
Her? She's just kidding, Mr. Lord.
Her hand of Buddha power allows us to pick up props in the environment and move them around. She can also pick up a power up that makes her attacks temporarily stronger. Using Lisa's hand of Buddha and Bart Man, they make their way through loggers and giant saw blades to the main logging plant. On their way there, Lenny and Carl are seen bird watching from the top of a tree, but their bird watching gets cut short. They fall onto a conveyor belt and get trapped under a tree branch. The conveyor belt leads to the pond where Lisa and Bart were already going, but now they have to save them too. They make their way to and across a river to reach the pond where they have to race against the clock to save the two. Lisa uses her hand of Buddha to move some pipes around to allow Bart to platform to a switch that opens a gate to another Buddha statue that Lisa uses to save Carl and Lenny.
You saved our lives. You kids are heroes.
Yeah, we're gonna tell everyone we were rescued by, Homer's kids, whose names are...
Bart and Lisa! Oh, I can't believe you forgot our names. You've known us our whole lives.
So, we're not thinking about you all the time, you know?
Bart then shoots a target that causes the whole pond to explode. I really like this level. Lisa's hand of Buddha is the second most fun ability in this game. Using a giant hand to magically pick up props and throw them on opponents never gets old. Lisa and Bart's powers complement each other really well too. Lisa often uses her power to build platforms and structures that Bart can then platform off with his Bart Man powers. It really makes it feel like this is something that they could only do together. Other levels do make use of both family members' abilities, but it feels more like they take turns using their powers rather than working together. In general, Lisa and Bart are my favorite pairing because they just bounce off each other so well. The way Bart goes from not wanting to help Lisa to hugging her at the end where they actually succeed, it's just heartwarming, you know? And it shows their bond and dynamic better than even recent episodes of The Simpsons can. The next level is Mob Rules, the introduction to Marge and her powers. It starts off with Marge talking to Lisa about the mayor being bribed by an EA exec to allow them to sell Grand Theft Scratchy to minors. As they were talking, Martin runs past with a new copy of the game. Desperate to get home, he does what anybody would do in this situation. Marge and Lisa see this and Gertrude could be okay. He says he's fine but complains that GTS is going to turn every kid in the town into a thug. Lisa tells Marge there's a way that she can get the game banned.
You have the power to convince crowds to do whatever you want.
Just like Oprah. Okay, let's stop that video game.
So Marge uses her megaphone to indoctrinate people into her cause. She controls a mob and directs them to destroy things, and no sign is safe with this mob around. She can also use her megaphones to let out a big burst in front of her. Marge and Lisa make their way through the town, recruiting everyone and everything that they can, while destroying anything that gets in their way. They make it to the town hall where they have a standoff with police. By this point, Marge has a small army behind her ready to do whatever it takes. The mob fends off police while also trying to destroy the new Itchy and Scratchy statue that replaced the old Jebediah Springfield statue. The mob succeeds in destroying the statue as Scratchy's head rolls into the town hall. Then Marge gets Lisa to set what's left of the statue on fire. Somehow the mayor and the exec didn't hear the crowd approaching, the all-out brawl that breaks out in the town square, and half of their building collapsing. It cuts to them chilling in a hot tub where the mayor receives his payday for allowing EA to sell GTS to kids. It cuts back to Marge, who realizes they're going to need to do more to get their attention. She sends Maggie into the town hall vents, and she has to turn these valves that cause the hot tub to heat up too much to cause Quimby and the exec out. The exec then notices the mob outside, which includes a senator. This scares the exec because he was promised no mobs and no senators, and takes the money and leaves. Quimby announces to the crowd that he'll stop selling the game to kids. Violence always wins.
Mom, isn't it a little bit hypocritical that you're opposed to the violence in the Itchy and Scratchy game, but then you use violence to get your way?
I'm sorry, Lisa, what? I just can't hear you over the roar of this appreciative crowd.
Marge's mob power is flat out my favorite power in this game. It can seem slow at the start, but by the end when you have a small army behind you, it really starts to hit. The Maggie segments, while short and a bit shallow, are a nice break from all the chaos. And you have to laugh at Marge complaining about violence in games, but subjects two of her kids to violence in person. If you get the police Marge power up, the crowd legit starts throwing rocks. And what are the ethics letting your kid climb through vents and see this? Is this a good enough reason to call CPS? And this game having the shady businessman be an EA exec is a cherry on top. The episode ends with the family at home, celebrating what they did with their powers, stopped the plan to cut down all Springfield's forest, prevented some bullies from robbing a museum, put a stop to EA's greed, and won the eating competition. But this turns into a fight between them. Marge complains that Homer should put his powers to better use, Bart complains about Marge robbing a generation of real-world skills that GTA and GTS could teach them, Lisa complains about Bart destroying half the museum, and Homer complains that Lisa put a dozen innocent loggers out of the job. But their argument is interrupted by an alien invasion.
Aliens? Bet they're here to take our jobs.
Bart tries to use his slingshot on it, but his attacks bounce off. This is for some reason enough to show them that their powers aren't strong enough to defeat the aliens and that they need a power up. Maybe try using Lisa's god hand on them first, but I understand that this had to happen for the plot. They realize they have to find the only person in Springfield smart enough to help them.
I drank blue juice from under the sink.
Oh, let's just find Professor Frink.
The next episode is called Enter the Cheatrix. Lisa and Bart visit Professor Frink's house, also help stopping Kang and Kudo's invasion. When he doesn't answer the door, they give up on knocking and try something else. Find a portal in the garage and realize he has to be where it leads. They enter it and are transported to some kind of factory. They immediately find Frink, who reveals exactly where they are.
Welcome to the game engine.
This level reimagines a game engine as an actual factory, or more like a sweatshop. Wow, this is what working at EA does to a man. Frink tries to explain to them that their whole lives up to this point have been a video game, but you know, this is old news. Bart and Lisa ask Frink for help stopping the alien invasion, and he pulls out the Simpsons Game strategy guide. Lisa is hesitant to use the guide because she considers it cheating. Definitely today, nobody would consider a guide to be cheating, but I don't know if it was considered cheating in the 2000s. It might just be Lisa being a tryhard. But as Frink is about to give the guide over to them, he gets kidnapped by a Donkey Kong dude. I'm gonna call him Donkey Kong. While Frink was being dragged away, some of the pages from the guide fell out. Bart picks up one of the pages and explains his new grapple power. It does everything a video game grapple can do. After using it to clear the first part of the level, they find another page that unlocks Lisa's super saxophone that causes enemies to fight each other. They use their new powers to traverse the level and fight off some sad knockoffs. They go through various stages on the way, including a blood room where all the unnecessary video game blood is made. The marketing room where Bart drops this banger.
Maybe marketing money should go into making better games.
And the final boss room. Again, Bart and Lisa levels seem to have the most cohesiveness between their powers. This section in the marketing room where Lisa has to move platforms to then allow Bart to grapple to them is simple but fun. On their way to the final fight, Lisa gets the power flick upgrade, which allows her to use her hand of Buddha to send enemies flying. We get to where Donkey Kong is holding Frink. He constantly throws barrels at them, but when he steps forward, Lisa can use her new flick power to send him flying back. He stands just outside the range of Lisa's powers and moves forward when he's about to throw a barrel at you. Do this a few more times and he falls into whatever this stuff is, and you save Frink. With Frink saved, he hands the guide over and creates a portal to send them back home. He says he won't be joining them because he found love in this world.
She is my everything. Oh, and she's funny too.
The next 3 levels are the families using their new upgrades to stop the different points that the aliens started when they invaded, and can be tackled in any order. These are pretty chunky gameplay levels, but otherwise, nothing happens in them story-wise. The first is Day of the Dolphin. Lisa and Bart head to the dock to deal with an army of dolphins that started attacking people after being zapped by the mothership. Lisa and Bart arrive at the dock and save the captain, who got tied up by animals with no hands. They decide to team up to defeat the boss dolphin, but split up to get there. They fight their way through dolphins and aliens on their way to the aquarium. They meet up with the captain again and they all fight hordes of dolphins. There's a main dolphin above a tank at the end of the room. Between every wave, Lisa can use her hand of Buddha to pick up a jellyfish and then drop it into the tank to electrify the water. Bart can shoot a target to drop the dolphin into the water. As all video game boss fights go, do this 3 to 4 times and that's the end of it. This is probably the shortest level in the game, but I'll take all the Lisa and Bart levels I can get. Plus, here's a spotlight to a character that you almost never see in the series.
Yeah, I've had a great time today, kids. I almost never appear this much in the series.
At first I thought this level was just a reference to Treehouse of Horror 11, Night of the Dolphin, where Lisa sets a dolphin that was being held captive at the Springfield Aquarium free, but he later returns with a grudge and tries to take over Springfield. But I forgot that Treehouse of Horror episodes are almost always based on popular films. Night of the Dolphin is actually a parody of the movie Day of the Dolphin. Massive warning, I'm about to go on a tangent. You can skip the timestamp on screen if you don't care about this part. Well, the plot of this movie is actually crazier than the game and the show. A scientist and his team are training dolphins to speak to humans on a remote island. They manage to teach this male dolphin called Fudd to speak simple English. They then introduce him to a female dolphin called Bay. Fudd somehow manages to teach Bay how to speak English even though he can barely speak it himself. But one of the backers of the research project is actually a secret agent working for a foreign government. He threatens to reveal the truth about the dolphins to the world if the scientist doesn't report his findings to the board of directors. The scientist agrees to go, but the agent uses this as a distraction to steal the dolphins. Guess what he decides to do with these dolphins? Sell them for money? Steal credit for the research? No.
Kill the president.
That's the last thing I'm going to say about this movie, but I felt like if I had to know this, you guys had to know this too. Because the only thing this movie shares with the show is that they both have dolphins in them. Next episode is called Shadow of the Colossal Donut. Truth be told, this is actually as far as I got as a kid. I actually thought this was the last level going into replaying this game. Little did I know, I just sucked. As a kid, for some reason, I just didn't know how to defeat this boss. But this is actually as straightforward as a boss fight comes. Lord Lad has these hatches on his back, with the next being higher than the last, and Bart can use his slingshot to open them. You just need to find a way to get to the open hatch and destroy the circuitry. You can either climb a tall building and glide down to the hatch as Bart, or use Homer's new helium power to float up to the hatch, all while fighting EA clowns that spawn when Lord Lad shoots a billboard with his lasers. Once you get all three hatches, he shuts down.
Who's number one? We're number one, that's right.
Oh, Homer, try to show a little dignity in victory.
This is another episode based on a Treehouse of Horror episode. This is based on Treehouse of Horror 6, Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesore, which is based on the 1958 film Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. The show episode is similar to the game episode with Lord Lad coming to life, but instead of being caused by an alien invasion in the show, he gets struck by lightning. No surprise that this is one of the best fights in the game because it's based on one of the best Simpsons episodes of all time. Parkour from building to building while a giant robot shoots lasers at you and EA clowns chase after you. It's peak video game boss fight. The episode ends with Kang blaming Kudos for this plan failing, and we move on to the next episode. The next episode is Invasion of the Yoko Snatchers. The aliens are abducting people and, studying them in the only way aliens know how. Bart and Homer make their way through a destroyed parking lot, fighting aliens along the way. There's a tractor beam in the distance, which is the most obvious way onto the ship. After crossing through the parking lot, they make it to a destroyed quickie mart. When they step inside, it triggers a Space Invaders mini-game. After completing 3 waves, the tractor beam appears. Stepping in, it teleports them into the spaceship. They catch Cletus at a pay in the middle of something. But only 3 Cletus. This poor guy probably doesn't even know what's going on. Cletus decides to help them fight the aliens. The floor of the ship starts to rise. They end up in this room where portals are spread out across it. These portals spawn aliens. The 3 need to fend off the aliens while also destroying the portals. After destroying all of them, a console appears, which when pressed raises a platform. That reveals that one of the townies has been helping the aliens all along.
Sideshow Bob?
Before anything else can happen, he steps on a space rig that Kudos left laying around and is knocked out. And that ends this level. The next episode is Bart and Ben. The alien invasion isn't over, but the family's powers have hit a wall again. Bart and Lisa decide to go looking for a different way to solve their problems. They find this website that's all about the Simpsons game. Bart's about to share a strategy when Homer gets distracted and pushes him out of the way to play solitaire.
Need to find.
Move it, I want to play solitaire.
The whole family is transported to what looks like another part of the game engine from earlier. The owner of the factory soon confronts them. Will Rife, the Sims guy, has been driven crazy by the failure of his game, Sims Sandwich, causing him to spend his time destroying games that nobody cares about anymore. One of these games is Escape from Krusty Island, which has a pixelated version of the family trapped inside.
Which one is supposed to be me?
Help! It's crazy!
If he destroys us, we'll never escape from Krusty Island.
I'm Marge.
Homer and Bart must save them before the game cartridge they're trapped in reaches the incinerator. This level is a time trial. They run across conveyor belts and walkways to reach a lever that will turn the incinerator creator ore. When they reach the level, Will Wright flies off screen, complaining that the only reason he lost is because the EA nerds are jealous of him. An elevator door opens beside the lever. It takes them to a movie cinema where the Pixel family is waiting to thank them. They warn them that one day their video game will also fade out of relevance. Bart says that their game is awesome and that even though every other game has come and been forgotten, theirs won't. Lisa rants about how they can't control what happens outside of the game because right now they can't even control what's happening in the game. The Pixel family tells them there's one chance they have to change the course of the game, and that's to go to the mansion of the creator. The only way they can get to the mansion is by finding 4 key cards. So they set out to find the creator and save Springfield. 4 key cards are found in 4 different video game inspired episodes that can be tackled in any order. These are undoubtedly the best parts of the game. If you're planning to play this game, I would stop watching this video here and play these levels first. Before they can start their search, Brink appears and gives them more powers. Homer can now transform into Kami Homer and shoot Kami grenades at objects and enemies. Lisa can now use her Hand of Buddha to freeze and electrocute enemies. Bart gets the wrist rocket that gives him longer range and higher damage. And Marge gets more damage on her blowback, which is the big burst she can do with her megaphone. These upgrades were definitely not created equal. Homer and Lisa are the only ones who actually got real upgrades. Marge's upgrade is to the least important parts of her kit, and this is especially disappointing because this is the first upgrade she's gotten. But after they test out their new powers, they set off. The first video game episode is Neverquest. Homer and Marge are teleported to this hobbit town that's been terrorized by a dragon. The children are begging for help. Marge is quick to try and save them, but Homer isn't.
Homer, we've got to save those midgets.
But Marge, I can't control myself. You're one sexy MILF.
The word is elf, and no snuggling till we do the right thing.
While they are fighting the dragon, Marge also has to make sure the houses don't catch on fire. If all the houses burn down, they lose the level. So she uses her megaphone to get the kids together and tell them to fix the houses. This is happening, the dragon is constantly flying around and will occasionally stop between a bridge. Homer can then use this opportunity to knock it down by rolling into it. Then, after it hits the ground, Marge can order the kids to attack the dragon. Again, as all video game boss fights go, do this 3 more times and the dragon is forced to retreat. To thank them, the Hobbit children tell them where they can find the key card. They show them to a door leading to a dungeon. They make their way through the dungeon, defeating all the mobs in the way. Halfway through it, the camera perspective changes, making this into a top-down dungeon crawler. They have to collect keys to open doors that lead to other levels. Then finally get out and open a door that leads to a room with a dragon statue in the middle, where she puts Maggie into the eye. There are tunnels inside of it with buttons. One of these buttons opens the dragon's mouth. In it is the dragon's lair, with a final fight with the Patty and Selma dragon begins. Homer uses his helium power to blast himself into the dragon, and after a few more hits, the dragon is defeated.
Well, at least we quit smoking. As much as I'm against murdering family members, it was nice to have a level away from the kids.
My precious.
There's a bunch of references to old school games in this level. Homer is just as Link. The name of the episode is a play on Neverquest. In the Nintendo DS version, this level is actually called The Mythos of Marge, a reference to A Legend of Zelda. The boss fight is reminiscent of arcade games like Bubble Bobble and Super Mario Bros. This is also the first and only Homer and Marge episode. They even continuously comment on how good it is to be alone away from the kids. I wonder what they were doing during all those Lisa and Bart levels. The next episode is Grand Theft Scratchy. Marge and Lisa are transported inside the game that Marge was trying to ban earlier. Already, I have to say, it's a missed opportunity to not have this be a Marge and Bart episode. Lisa is the next best option because she was there when Marge was fighting to get this game banned, but Marge and Bart's interactions in this episode would have been gold. They start this episode on Grove Street. After seeing gangs, pimps, and prostitutes, what's the first thing Marge decides to do?
Gentrify!
She can use her megaphone to control these dogs and order them to start fixing the neighborhood. She turns a liquor store into a hot dog store, a gun store into a museum, and a strip club into a dance studio. In this episode's Maggie segment, she can hit this box and it just automatically fixes the entire building. Like every building secretly has a gentrify button hidden somewhere. The building she was in was actually the radio station, and it goes from playing rap to pop. It continues until Marge gets the entire neighborhood. She ends up turning Grove Street into Cherry Tree Lane. After the radio station was fixed, a Buddha statue was spawned on the dock. Lisa can use this to build an ice bridge to an island across the river. Marge is a little more gentrifying.
Makes me feel as good as cleaning up ranch. Now anyone can enjoy this game, not just gamers.
And just as they think they're done, this episode's final boss appears, Poochie the dog. They have to defend these ice cream trucks from prostitutes that Poochie sends their way. After defeating 3 Wave, Marge sends her dogs to destroy the stage that Poochie's standing on, and this ends it all. The senator from before shows up to congratulate them on their work.
Great work, ladies. We finally made this video game safe for children. I proclaim an end to video game violence.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
This has got to be the funniest spin on another game that this game does, and the lines in this go hard.
I'm Pimp the House!
The only letdown of this level is the boss fight at the end. It's a parody of Missile Command, but it's very brain-dead gameplay. Very underwhelming end to a pretty great episode. The next episode is Medal of Homer. Bart and Homer are sent to fight in World War II. Germany is planning to attack the French township of Villa de Saint-Capitulants. Abraham Simpson leads them. They parachute into the town. After landing, they see the little German boy throw a rock at the window. This leads the French to think the Germans are attacking, and they immediately start surrendering and hang white flags in defeat. Abraham orders Homer and Bart to take down every single flag they can find. They collect 24 flags scattered across the town, and when they're done, they get the new mission. They are sent to Africa, where they have to guard a truck. The truck is driven by Abraham and Burns, and is filled with priceless paintings that Burns secured. Their goal is to take the paintings to a secure storage depot. The area the truck is driving through is controlled by the enemy, so Bart and Homer have to defend it. They destroy mines, turrets, explosives, and tanks to get the truck through the zone. After this, they receive their last mission. Burns has stolen the paintings and transported them to his aircraft carrier. Homer and Bart are flown onto the ship and have to put on C4s to destroy the anti-aircraft guns, and reach the platform that Burns is hiding on. After destroying all the guns and reaching the top platform, an epic battle begins between Burns and Bart. They return all the paintings back to the French. They receive one as a gift, and the key card is attached to the back. This is my favorite episode overall. The design of the French town is excellent, and this is what makes it the best platforming segment in the game. There's also no other nighttime episodes, which makes this one stand out even more. This has a classic card campaign vibe. When I played it, that's what I thought they were going for. But apparently, this is a parody of this early 2000s series of games called Medal of Honor. Never played them, never even heard of them, so I can't speak too much on it, but it's a military shooter set in World War II. It's an EA IP, and the director of the Simpsons Game had to ask his bosses personally if they could parody the series. Gave him the okay because they were optimistic about this game. Best choice they could have made, because it led to one of the best levels in the game. The last of the video game episodes is called Big Super Happy Fun Game. Lisa and Homer end up in some Japanese land.
Okay, I'm in a stupid Japanese game, but I'm not eating sushi. Unless it's covered with chocolate and there's no sushi in it.
A giant millhouse emerges from the water. He calls himself Mr. Dirt and welcomes them to his land. Easy to say they're not impressed. He asks Lisa to be his queen, but she just brushes him off.
Hey, the girl said she's not interested. Beat it, loser!
They make their way to a village and notice just how dirty everything is, especially a toilet in the center of the village with a Homer statue in it. They find 3 lamps scattered across the village, and after placing them all in their right place, they shoot a light into the statue. This awakens Mr. Sparkle, a giant floating head. He tells them that if they want to clean this land, they have to collect 3 Sparkle Mons from 3 nearby lands. So, accompanied by Mr. Sparkle, they head up to the first land, which is the Lava Land. Their way through lava sumo wrestlers and dangerous terrain, and at the end of this land, it is a well. Jumping in, it triggers a Sparklemon fight against Jimbo and his Sparklemon. After wearing it down, they use a summon to finish it all. Then Mr. Sparkle captures it. They then head to the land of ice. Similar to the lava level, they have to defeat ice sumo wrestlers and platform across terrain to make it to another well. This time it's Ralph and his Sparklemon. After they defeat him, Mr. Sparkle appears again and captures it. They then run to a flying boat that's about to take off. The boat has 5 motors that the two have to keep on while being attacked by sky sumo wrestlers. After fending off the sumo wrestlers for long enough, the ship arrives at a sky island. There's a well on this island that has Sherry and Terry in front of it. They jump in the well and Homer and Lisa follow after. This starts the last Sparklemon fight, and after defeating their Sparklemon, they capture it. Now they have all 3 and they have to insert the balls into the side of the toilet from before. This causes a giant Mr. Sparkle to appear and clean the entire land. He thanks them and uses Milhouse back into his normal self. Milhouse accepts defeat and gives them the key card.
Ew, no way! I saw you picking your nose with it.
Dad, Dad. We need the key to save everyone we know.
I don't know if you could call this a video game parody because it's more of a Japanese media parody, and there's two more wrestlers to the weird floating head. But one of the main and most evident inspirations for this level is Pokemon, which you can see in the silly outfits Hook Lisa are wearing and the Sparklemon fight. The creators definitely had fun making this level, but my favorite part of it has to be King of Cosmos Millhouse. The next level is 5 characters in search of an author. Now that they've collected the key cards, they reunite with the Pixel family. Bart enters the key cards into the door, and the way to the mansion of the creator finally opened. The Pixel family wishes them good luck, and the real family sets off to confront their creator.
So they won a war! Well, then it's a war they'll get.
They start in the courtyard of the mansion and have to fight against hordes of lawyers. After they defeat the lawyer, they make it to the door of the mansion. There are tiles outside the door that when stepped on play a sound. They have to step on the tile in a specific order to play an iconic theme song.
That song, it's been haunting me for years.
This opens the door, and after they step inside, they're confronted by the creator. He moves around these balconies and constantly spawns benders as Zoidbergs while also throwing pages. Homer can roll into these bells under the balcony Groening is standing on to force him to move. And when there isn't a bell, there's a lever on the side of the balcony that Bart can glide to. Pulling the lever will close the curtain, covering the balcony and forcing him to move. After doing this enough times, a move to a ledge at the top of the room. A walkway in the middle of the room will rise to create a ramp to him. Homer can then roll into the ledge one last time to end it all. So the PS3/Wii version is the same as the PS3/Xbox version with just some downgrades here and there to allow it to run on these older consoles. But this level is almost completely different on the older consoles, so we have to talk about it. They start in a courtyard that has a completely different design from the PS3 version, but the main enemy is still the lawyers. Instead of immediately reaching the door after leaving the courtyard, they have to make their way through the mansion's gardens. Bart has to grapple across shark-infested water to a switch on the other side. Pulling it will electrify the water. This kills the sharks, allowing Homer to use their dead bodies to cross the water, because even though there's no more sharks, none of the family knows how to swim. He breaks some pillars and uses them to make it the rest of the way across the water. They make it to the door and have to do the same music puzzle from before. The inside of the house is also completely different. They have to fight their way through the house to Groening's office. From the foyer, they go to a hallway filled with art. The hallway leads to a room with a pencil trap. They deactivate it and move on to the library/museum. Groening has a portrait at the end of the room that shines a light from his glasses. There are also mirrors scattered across the room. Once they position all the mirrors correctly, the light will hit the mirror above the door at the end of the room, opening it. This door leads to Groening's office. And now the boss fight commences. Even though walking into the room triggers the same cutscene from before, the layout of this room is not the same, and the boss fight plays out differently. Groening still summons benders and Zoidbergs, but he only moves after you defeat them. Eventually he'll move to this ledge and summon a bender that falls into a pile of coins, destroying some of them in the process, and making a ramp that Homer can use. This is one of the very few rumors that the PS2/Wii version is objectively better than the PS3 Xbox version. What I'm guessing happened is that the PS2 couldn't handle the boss room, so they had to scale it down. But then they had to add more content to the rest of the levels to make up for the shorter boss fight. I don't know if when they were doing this they knew they would end up making a level that some might say is better than the original. Now back to how this episode ends. It cuts to Homer and Bart kicking Groening.
Stop kicking the man who doodled you! It isn't nice!
Groening thanks Marge for stopping them. Lisa then asks him how he could sell them out to these endless video games where they lose and die and jump over and over again. He says he's sorry and that if he knew that they would be this upset that he would only have put their faces on merchandise. They're not satisfied with this apology, but before they can do anything about it, Groening pushes the
Video game engine self-destruct button.
So long, suckers!
and escapes on a helicopter, but not before signing his name on the window. The next and last episode is Game Over. Starts with all the different characters from the video game episodes and the family escaping from the self-destructing game engine. The family returns to their home, but the invasion is still happening. Marge remarks that only God can save them now, and this gives Lisa an idea. She says that there's only one person who supersedes their creator, and that's God. She decides she's going to use her powers to build a highway to heaven, using all the buildings in Springfield. But you know, if she can do this, what's stopping her from just using her powers on the ships? But anyways, there walk up to the stairway and make it to Heaven's Gate. Before Homer and Bart can make it in, the gate closes. They're stopped by Shakespeare. After defeating him, the gate opens and they agree to buy all the enemies they defeated along the way. This is interesting because when you defeat enemies in the game, a halo starts rising from their body. So now we know where that went. The family has to fight all the enemies they defeated up till this point one more time. Soon reach God's palace, but someone is guarding the gate.
Wow, Benjamin Franklin, you are my intellectual hero. Please, please let us pass so we can talk to God.
No way, Lisa. You're a bigger butt kisser than Thomas Jefferson.
If the afterlife is real, do you think Jefferson is watching just thinking, is this my legacy? They defeat him and finally reach God.
Oh my. God's not setting a very good example.
No wonder you never hear about God having a girlfriend.
Is someone there? I don't have any money.
Lisa pleads with God to stop playing with their lives. This and their uneasy looks earns his disfavor and he challenges them to a game of Dance Dance Revolution. I have to say that this boss fight actually has no business being this hard. I think I would have had an easier time playing a Souls game. I think it's actually a blessing in disguise that I didn't get to this level as a kid because I never would have finished it. It's actually embarrassing how long it took me to beat this level. There are 3 waves and each wave destroys the console that God is using. After destroying his PlayStation, Exodus box, and High, a blue screen appears that Bart takes down. Bart grabs God's memory card and threatens to throw it off the cloud if he doesn't give them what they want. God pleads with him not to and he says he'll do whatever they say. Homer asks him what's the meaning of life and he explains that the Simpsons game is just a mini game in a game called Planet Earth that God plays 24 hours a day. So the family are the characters in the Simpsons game and are being played by someone in the Planet Earth game and God is playing the Planet Earth game. He also explains that he dropped the manual by mistake earlier and that's what led to the spin of events.
Oh, how do you control the camera in this thing? Is it the L and R button or what? Ah, screw this, I'm getting a beer. Oh!
He says he feels super bad and promises to fix everything that happened. But before that, they ask him if he ever thinks he's a character in a video game.
Well, that's just dumb. I mean, stop being dumb.
Wow! Daddy, someone's looking at me!
So, to summarize what happened, Bart found a game manual in an alley. This manual turns out to be for the Simpsons game. This reveals to the family that they not only have powers, but that they're also characters in a video game. They all test out their powers in different ways and then return home and talk about what they did with them. But this turns into a fight. Their fight ends up being interrupted by an alien invasion. Kang and Kudo start wreaking havoc across Springfield and the family are the only ones who can stop them. But their powers are too weak to put up a good fight, so they seek out Professor Frink for help. Upon visiting Frink's house, they realize he's not home and break in to find clues of his whereabouts. They find a portal inside his garage and after stepping in it are transported to the game engine. Here they fight Frink, who offers them the Simpsons game strategy guide. We can give it to them, he's kidnapped by Donkey Kong. After saving him, he gives them the guide and the family set off to save Springfield. After defeating Lord Glad, Dolphins, and some aliens, their power hits another wall and they look for another way to level up. So they search for guides to the Simpsons game online. Bart is about to reveal a way for them to defeat the aliens when Homer pushes him out the way to play solitaire. Homer puts his beer on the computer disk tray, but it closes and spills beer all over the keyboard. The computer short circuits and transports them to another part of the game engine from earlier. Here they have to save an 8-bit version of themselves from Will Wright, the creator of The Sims. After saving them, the Pixel family reveals that there's another way that they can save Springfield, and that's by going to the mansion of the creator. They find 4 keycards from 4 video game inspired episodes first. After collecting the keycards, they insert them into the gate that opens the way to the mansion. They have to reveal that the creator is the actual creator of The Simpsons, Matt Groening. After beating him up, they ask him how he could sell them out to games where they die over and over again. Groening pretends to be sorry, but then presses the video game engine self-destruct button in and under a painting and makes a quick escape. The family are forced to escape the collapsing game engine back to Springfield, but they're still not safe because the alien invasion is still happening. Lisa gets an idea to go talk to the only person who supersedes their creator, and that's God. He uses all the buildings in Springfield to create a highway to heaven. They make it to God's room and find out he's just a gamer, and after beating him in a game of Dance Dance Revolution, he he's forced to reveal everything to them. He tells them that their game, the Simpsons game, is just a mini game in a bigger game called Planet Earth that he was playing earlier, then accidentally threw the manual for the Simpsons game over the ledge and landed in front of Bart. And that's the story of the Simpsons game. A sweet mix of self-aware tropes, video game parodies, and self-referential dialogue. The best part of this is that they didn't stop at them just knowing they're in a video game, but make full use of it to drive the plot, to the point that they actually go and talk to the person who created them. We really don't get many arcadey games like this, especially ones that don't take themselves too seriously. But let's actually take this game too seriously. So God mentions that he's playing the Planet Earth game, and the Simpsons game is a mini game in that game. So then why are the Simpsons able to reach him? Shouldn't they have had to go through the Planet Earth game first before reaching God? Unless Lisa is actually just that powerful and her highway crossed through two different planes of existence. But this seems unlikely. God dropped the manual and they landed in Springfield, so he has to be above Springfield. So this means God is playing the Earth game while he's inside the Simpsons game. He's playing the main game from inside a mini game. This would be like playing The Witcher 3 from inside Gwent. Now that we've talked about the entire game, we have to talk about the family's level count. And by that I mean how many times each pair is playable. There's a total of 16 levels in the game, but we're going to exclude the first level, which is the tutorial, and the last level where all of them are playable. So now we have 14 levels. So let's see who has the most and least amount of levels. But the winner is definitely going to be obvious. So coming in last place is Marge and Bart with a total of 0 levels together. Tied for second to last place is Homer and Lisa, as well as Homer and Marge, both with only 1 level. So the bronze medal goes to Lisa and Marge with 2 episodes. The silver goes to Lisa and Bart with 3 episodes. And gold goes to Bart and Homer with 7 episodes. If we tally up each character's individual episode count, Marge has 3, Lisa has 6, Homer has 9, and Bart has 10. Homer also has the tutorial where he's the only character available, and if we count that, that brings him up to 10 episodes. Keeping this in mind, this explains why Marge is the least developed character in this game. It's probably because at a baseline, Marge is the most complex power in the game. Any Marge episode requires her to have a crowd to control and something for the crowd to interact with. For example, in Mob Rules, it's the signs and statues, and in Grand Theft Scratchy, it's the houses. They also have a unique crowd for her in each of her episodes, which adds that extra bit of complexity. Compare this to Bart, who only needs an updraft and later a grapple point that can be basically anything. So it's understandable but still a bit disappointing. It seems Lisa might have run into a similar problem, but they managed to find a way around it by reusing assets in some part. They also gave her more use cases for her powers later on, allowing her to use it against enemies and still have it be used in interesting ways to traverse levels. The nature of a giant floating hand probably just lends itself more to different use cases. Also, a big consequence of the family having all these different powers is that some combinations just work better than others. For example, any episode that doesn't have a Homer and Bart can feel light on the platforming. Bart's powers are all about mobility. While Homer is more of a Swiss Army knife, his Helia power is definitely mainly used for traversal. It leaves the 2 Lisa and Marge episodes feeling like walking simulators, even if they still are fun in their own regard. As I've said before, this is why I enjoy Lisa and Bart's episodes. They complement each other so much and they feel like they're really working together because they enable each other so well. If we look at Homer and Bart, even though there are times where maybe Homer does something that enables Bart to use his powers, like in episode 3 where he smashes the bagpipe, most of the time they're just doing their own thing. This is reflected in the fact that the structure of the last few Bart and Homer levels is that you can use either Bart or Homer to complete one segment until you reach a part where it requires a specific character. Compare this to Lisa and Bart's episodes where majority of the time you have to enable the other. Like here where Lisa has to electrify the water, then Bart has to drop the dolphins in to deal damage. Versus the Lot Lad fight where even though you have to use Bart's slingshot to open the hatches, you can also just use Bart to destroy all the circuitry. It's not every part of these episodes that use them both, but it's consistently more in-depth than other levels and happens more often. This is a very short game. If you know what you're doing, you could finish the entire game in less than 10 hours. Great if you're looking for something you can finish in a weekend, but if you're expecting a bit more bang for your buck, you're going to leave a bit disappointed. These days you can get a used copy for cheap, but when this launched, this was the same price as a full price AAA game. Unlike other games, this game's stylized graphics have enabled it to age well, making it an ideal candidate for a remaster. They would only really need to update the camera and maybe some of the enemies. It's very telling that the hardest part of this Game is a DDR parody that has nothing to do with the core gameplay. The most difficult core section is the groaning fight, and it still relies more on overwhelming numbers than any sort of nuanced challenge. EA still holds the license to create video games based on The Simpsons. However, the only game they released recently using the license is the mobile game Simpsons Tapped Out, and that was released in 2012. I thought we'll get a new game based on this IP from EA, but a remaster seems like the relatively easy cash grab they would be quick to jump on. Something I want to mention before closing this video is the different versions of this game. Firstly, all the different versions of the game have a unique box art. Notice how Marge and Lisa are only in one box art each. There are also some major in-game differences, the biggest being in the DS version, which is actually a 2D platformer and a pretty competent one at that. The DS version is also generally rated higher than the other versions of this game. The rest of the versions are all 3D platformers as discussed in this video, with the only major difference being the inclusion of an open world. The PS3 and Xbox 360 version allow you to walk on one spring field between missions and enter some of the buildings. There are also collectibles to find around the town, and you can talk to some of the townies. But you know, it might just be that I'm suffering from severe open world fatigue, but I found myself always traveling whenever I could. It was fun to walk around and experience Springfield, but it isn't a highlight of this game for me. If you only played the PS2 version, you're not really missing out on much. This game has its problems, and when I played it again, I was worried that I was about to completely ruin this game for myself. But I'm leaving it pretty happily. It has so much charm and character in almost every aspect of it, from the story to the levels to the characters. You can tell that this was a game made by a fans for fans. I do think the gameplay might hold it back from appealing to people who aren't big-time fans of the show, but for me, I could never rate this game low. There's just too much nostalgia here. Any couch co-op game that I play with my siblings or my cousins, instant 9. If you stuck around to the end, thanks for watching. I really enjoyed making this video. I'm thinking of doing a Sparrow retrospective next, but not 100% on it. I'm still not 100% sure where I want to take this channel, but I'm looking forward to doing more long-form content. Any suggestions for future videos or feedback on this one, make sure to leave a comment, especially if you have feedback, because I'm always looking to improve. And I hope to see you in the next one.